Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everything is going well for you and yours. This is the portion of the show where we let YouTube send out the notifications via social media, let folks know that the broadcast is getting ready to start. We'll sit here and we'll count down the next 2 minutes before I push that button and go live. If you happen to be watching this on replay, go ahead and scrub past this graphic until you see my smiling face. If you have any questions and you're joining us today in the live chat, feel free to go ahead and add those questions to the live chat now, and we'll get to them in due course during this live Q&A session. So, sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and we'll get going in about 30 seconds. Happy Sunday, y'all. Hope everybody is doing well. I see we've already got pretty much a full house over there on the YouTube side of the broadcast here. It's kind of a slow day. I'm taking the day kind of mellowing out a little bit. I've been working on the shop shed for most of the week, and the air conditioner just kicked on. Sorry if you hear that in the background. I forgot to shut it off before I pushed the button. I've been working on the ceiling of the shop shed. I got it sheathed. I got one of the electrical chases covered, then promptly ran out of material. So I've got to go get another sheet of 5mm Luan plywood. It's cheap, but for what I'm using it for, it'll work. And so I got to go get a whole nother sheet of that. But that's okay. I figure I can use the leftovers for the backs of cabinets, because I'm going to be making all of the furniture to go in the shop shed. I don't even have the wall sheathing yet. And I'm getting ready to, tomorrow, I will literally pull the trigger on spraying primer on the whole ceiling. I'm putting emphasis on getting the ceiling finished so I can get my shop lights hung again. Right now, I have 3 of those cheap clamp-on fixtures, the kind that's got the big aluminum dome. And then I got the curly fluorescent bulb in the middle of them. I got 3 of those clamped up in the shop, and the lighting is just horrific in there. So I want to get my shop lights hung back up, and I have to paint the ceiling before I do that. So primer will go up tomorrow. Then after I get the primer and paint done, perfect, I can go ahead and hang my shop lights. Then I can go get the sheathing. Then I can start working on getting the walls done. So that's where we stand on the shop shed. There won't be an update video until I get the walls sheathed and painted. And then that'll be the next update. And that may be a couple weeks down the road. I've got to wait till payday to get sheathing and paint. So, that'll be about another 10 days from now. So, okay. So that's it on the shop shed build. And let's see, Steve Perdue says, let's see, howdy from Spring, Texas. Howdy from Southern Oregon. Are you still going to San Diego to do a virtual presentation? The virtual presentation is still up in the air. I don't know. A number of things are going to depend. I don't have to go to San Diego to do that. I am too bummed that the Vectric user group meeting this year was canceled. There are still international travel restrictions, and they just don't have time to get everything together and get everybody over here due to those restrictions. So I have been invited to make the presentation next year, and we are planning on doing just that. Reservations are already made again, and maybe third time's the charm. So this was supposed to happen last year, then got bumped up to this year. Now it's not happening until next year. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, it'll all come to fruition. We'll see. But as for my participation this year, I don't know yet. I really don't know. So we shall see. Let's see here. John, Would If I Could up in Alberta, kind of giving me a little bit of a needle here. But John, the reason I mentioned John is because he did something the other day. In fact, he hit 250 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and he had been teasing people about, if I hit 250 subscribers on my channel, I'll do a 25-hour marathon, and I will cut 25 projects on my scroll saw. So that's exactly what he did. He did a 25-hour marathon, and he cut 25 projects in about 24 and a half hours. And that ended yesterday at about 5:30 in the evening, my time, Pacific time. He went all night, and he had a constant, steady crew of people coming in to watch. And it was really a lot of fun. I came on a couple of times and just, cheerleaded, and we talked about life, the universe, and everything, and just hooted and hollered. And it was a lot of fun. If you are into scroll saw art, check out John's channel. Would If I Could is the name of his, obviously you can see it up on my screen right now. Would If I Could John C is his channel. He mainly does live streams. I think there are a couple of regular videos there, but he does a lot of live streams. We have a lot of fun. So if you're interested in scroll saw art, get over there and check it out. He's a lot of fun. Let's see. What do we got going here? Phil Stauffer wants to know, has the heat wave broken? Not really. It's only supposed to be 100 degrees today. It's not crazy hot like it was a while back, 115 degrees. But the spray foam insulation got to work out this week. I have a small single room portable air conditioner that I inherited from my father, basically. And oh boy, that puppy works good. It kept it a nice, straight, even 75 in there. The whole time I was hanging ceiling sheathing and wood filler and sanding and all this other good stuff. It really worked great. So it was hot outside, but the shed stayed nice and cool. So I couldn't be happier with that. But the heat wave it's calmed down, but it's still not very good. Okay, let's see here. If you have any questions for me at all, by all means, put them in the chat, and we'll try to get going on those questions. Mario Montoya has one who said, how well does melamine board work for V carving? I have not tried to V-carve melamine, but it is one thing I do plan on trying, because I've had a couple of projects in the past that didn't work out so well with trying to V-carve on painted parts. I got some things done. It's a learning curve, but I've not tried melamine. I wanted to try it, and I am going to try it when I get out into the shed. If anybody has any experience with V-carving on melamine, kind of let us know down here in the chat or in the comment section. How well did it work out for you? One thing I will say, Mario, is that not all melamine is created equal. And you should check with a lumberyard or hardwood supplier or even a cabinet shop. And because some of the melamine that's sold in the big box stores and home centers, the melamine coating is pretty thin. I mean, so much so that if you look carefully at it, there on the stack, you can almost see through it. You can see the rough grain of the particle board substrate, and it's not transparent, but it's so thin you can kind of see particles through it, where just shopware from it sitting on that stack and vibrating in transportation is kind of worn through it a little bit. Generally speaking, the higher quality stuff that you would get from a lumberyard or hardwood supplier that services the cabinet shops and the cabinet industry in your area, you'll get a better grade there. The melamine coating is thicker. But I do know from experience of working with melamine in the cabinet shop, sharp tools are a must. And I mean, they got to be real sharp, and expect chip out, because it's a particle board substrate, and it does not like to be cut. It likes to chip and break. And that melamine coating is brittle. So do watch out for chip out, and be aware that you will probably get some. As I said, I've not V-carved melamine, but it's one of the things that I did want to experiment with. Let me look down here and see, has anybody had any experience with melamine? No, I don't see any thing. Nope, I don't. Okay. But yeah, I have not experienced with melamine yet, but it's one of the things I'm going to try when I get moved over. One of the things I want to do is I want to kind of back away, not completely, from video software tutorials, and start getting into project tutorials. And that's the kind of thing that I want to do when I get moved into the shop. Is I'll get some melamine and I'll V-carve it. Let's check it out. Let's see. What are good feeds and speeds for cutting acrylic? Well, I'll get some cast acrylic and we'll check it out. We'll see. I want to experiment with this kind of stuff and find out what doesn't work and what does work, and give you guys a practical demonstration of, rather than trying to describe cutting pine versus cutting maple, let's cut pine and let's cut maple and let's see the result. So that's the kind of thing I want to get into. I just got to get moved in yet. So, okay, let's see. Okay, John Thompson has a two-parter here. Did a sign 36 by 10, 3/4 inch board with grapevine going across the top and down the sides. Okay. It was to be kind of incomplete. High. Should I have changed the resolution as you described in the video about voxels? 2 points about that. Number one, the video about voxels, I misspoke. It should not have been the word voxels. It should have been pixels. Voxels are a thing, but it's not the type of 3D modeling that Aspire uses. Aspire uses pixels, not voxels. So I misspoke there. Changing the resolution. Whenever I cut 3D models, I try to go for high resolution at the minimum. Sometimes I will go into very high or maximum, just depending on the size of the model and the size of the overall project. But if you're talking about carving a 3D model, at least go to high resolution in your job setup. If you are talking about, if you're not doing any kind of 3D work in this project, John. If it's all V carving or something like that, the resolution has nothing to do with it. You can change resolution till the cows come home. That resolution is only applicable to 3D models. Depending upon what you're doing, again, I would at least go with high resolution. And let me go ahead and bring up Aspire. And just to clarify, we will share screen here. I really need to get a Stream Deck and get it hooked up so I don't have to go through all this stuff every time I want to share screen. Here we go. Okay, we are talking about over here in job setup for 3D modeling. Right now, it's currently in standard resolution. I want to go to very high at the minimum. There are times I'll want to go higher than that, but that's generally reserved for smaller pieces that are going to be held and seen up close. If it's something to hang on the wall, I find that very high is more than sufficient. Okay. Now, again, that's for 3D models only. That has absolutely no effect on V carving, drilling, or profiles. That's all 100% 3D models. If you mean the resolution of the 3D view and the display, then I believe it is, let me find it here. That's not it. Preview simulation quality in the toolpaths menu. Your preview simulation quality, I have mine set at maximum. And that gives me, let me put a model out here. And we'll go with, okay, let's go with just that, just for giggles. Go back over to the drawing tab, and I'm going to blow it up here a little bit so you can, whoa, not that much. Blow it up so you can see it. You see how my 3D preview simulation is pretty decent. That is set on high. This is all it affects, this preview simulation quality. This is all it affects, is your display. If you want finer modeling resolution, that's what's done here in job setup. Okay? They are two different things. And that also affects your preview simulation quality here, is this setting right here. So I hope that oh, I have not been screen sharing. Holy cow, man, that's crazy. And you guys have probably been trying to tell me the whole time that I'm not screen sharing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm sitting here describing everything. Let me try that again. The 3D model resolution is over here in job setup. We come into job setup and we're talking about down here. This affects 3D models only, and I now have it set to very high. That's the minimum I use. And again, it depends on the size of the model that I'm cutting. Again, if it's something small that I'm going to be holding in my hand up close, then I'll go with a higher resolution than this. And I'll get into that in another video. If it's going to be something hanging on the wall, very high is the resolution that I want to use. And when we're talking about the 3D view, this display resolution, whether you be in the preview or just over here in your 3D view, that is up here in the toolpaths menu, preview simulation quality. I have mine set at maximum. That gives me a better quality display out here, but it affects the screen only. It does not affect the quality of the 3D model at all. That is controlled over here in job setup with modeling resolution. This affects the final output outside on the machine. This affects the display on your computer, and that's all. So that's what I was trying to say when I thought I was screen sharing. So now, if that's not what you meant, then it's possible you might just, okay, I see. You said it didn't come out great. Something else to consider is the size of the bit you're using and how much detail is in the model. But it sounds to me like you may have wanted to change your modeling resolution up a little bit high. That's a pretty large project, so it shouldn't need a very teeny tiny bit. Should be able to get away with a 1/8 or a 1/16 tapered ball nose, but it's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, but yeah, your modeling resolution should be very high. That's what I set it at anyway. Let's go down here to all people saying you're not sharing your screen. Nope, you're not sharing your screen. Okay. So, all right. Sorry about that. I just thought I was sharing. Let's see. Let's cruise on down the road here and see. Okay. Malcolm asked a question and then clarified it a little bit later, rather, but I still really don't get it. You made a job and then cut it out. What cut cartridge do you use? I don't understand that. So I asked for clarification. Okay, I did a job in VCarve, then cut it out. What cut? If you're trying to cut it out from the material, you will use a profile toolpath and set your cut depth to go all the way through the material. Set it to the thickness of your material. I'm assuming you have a vector around that you can follow that you want to cut out. Select that vector and do a profile toolpath. If you haven't watched my Vectric for the Absolute Beginner series, and there's a link to it down in the description box below, I believe episode 2 talks about that profile toolpath. The playlist for the entire series in order, starting with number 1 and going all the way down to number 50. There's a link to it down in the description of this video. You're looking at the profile toolpath. Now, if that's not what you're talking about, can you give me a little bit more information to kind of help clarify? So I hope that answers that, though. But if not, let me know, please. Okay, let's see. Kind of cruise down and see if there's anything else. Okay, Kool-Aid wants to know, can you suggest who has a good video setting up Mach3 settings and motor tuning? Yes, I can make 3 excellent suggestions. Well, 2 excellent suggestions and 1 meh. One, it'd be my CNC guru, my CNC Obi-Wan, Dave Gatton, on his channel. He's got a couple of videos on his channel about Mach3 settings and motor tuning. And when we're done, I will put a link. I'll go find it, and it'll take me a few minutes, so give me a little bit. I'll go find his video on Mach3 settings, and I'll link it in the description of this as soon as we're finished here. Let's see. I just wrote a note. And the other excellent source is Peter Passuello over at CNCnutz. Dave and Peter both have done excellent videos on settings, motor tuning in Mach3, more than you ever wanted to know. The third source, is my video on setting up Mach3 for my Xylotex drive box. And that was a part of my Gatton CNC build video series. I will find Dave's video, I'll find Peter's video, and I will find my video, and I'll link all three in the description of this as soon as we're finished live. I would highly recommend Dave first, Peter second, and compare and contrast the information you get from those two videos. And remember that your mileage may vary because every driver is different, every motor is different, but they will show you the process. Their numbers may not work for you, but you'll see how you get those numbers. Okay? So just know that. I'll put links to all three of those videos down in the description of this as soon as we're finished live here. Okay? But as always, my first two places I go when I'm looking for something like that is I hit Dave Gatton's channel, then I hit Peter Passuello's channel, CNCnutz. And if you're not subscribed to both, well, you should be. And check them out. They lots of good information over there. So let's see here. Okay, Richard Poulin has a answer for you, Mario. He did work on melamine. It's good for fast sign making. Use water-based paint and wash up. It is hard on bits, though. I kind of wondered about that, simply because it's particle board and glue can be rough on bits. So it's just kind of one of those things. I know the melamine blades we used on the table saws in the cabinet shop, they had to get sent out for sharpening quite often. And they're expensive blades to start with. I mean, this was back in the 90s and blades were, $300 back then. And then getting them sharpened was another, I think it was $10. And this, like I said, this is 93, 92. $10 a blade getting sharpened back then was a lot of money. So, but okay, it's good to know. Thank you. Okay, RC Builder, what is your wood of choice for making signs out of? It depends on the project, but I have two go-tos that, depending upon the project, my two first choices are maple, hard maple, and cherry. But it depends on the project. If I'm going to be staining it or if the paint is going to be involved, I choose maple. If I'm going to not be doing any painting on it, I like cherry. Having said that, if I want something a little bit more exotic, sapele, walnut, and mahogany also carve very well. Sapele and walnut carve like butter. I mean, beautifully. But it's not appropriate for every project. Goncalo alvis, also known as tiger wood, it's also another one that carves very well. But my first thought, my number one go-to is hard maple. I like the way it cuts. It's not expensive. It doesn't break the bank. It's readily available at just about any lumber yard or hardwood supplier. And it does a good job. It's a nice, dense hardwood that won't break the bank. But maple, cherry, sapele, walnut, in that order. Walnut is that low on the list because it's so expensive. If maple and walnut were about the same price, it would be a toss up between those two. But generally speaking, maple is where I'm going to go. Let's see. Okay, people telling me I'm not screen sharing. I'm getting down that far. I'm catching up. I'm catching up. Let me get down here. Okay, John Thompson talking about 1/4 inch eye, and he's talking about okay, the carved finished, but yeah, okay. So it was 3D carved. All righty. And Mike Smith also brings up an excellent point. Some 3D models are just not very high quality, and none of the settings are going to help. That's an excellent point. It's also going to depend on how big you scale that model, because if you have something that was designed to be 3 inches in diameter and you're trying to blow it up to 3 feet in diameter, you're going to lose resolution. Think of a photograph. If you have a tiny little image that you're trying to blow up full screen, it's going to be pixelized. Well, it's the same thing with a 3D model. You're going to lose resolution if you're trying to blow it up too high. So there are ways around that. I don't really understand them all that well, but yeah, it's Mike makes an excellent point. Depending on who you got the model from, some of them are just not very good quality. So that's something to watch out for. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Michael. Michael Mazalik's got a good video coming up this afternoon. I'm anticipating it's going to be a good video. He's got me intrigued, but more on that in a minute. Yes, next weekend will be episode 100, my 100th live Q&A. That's kind of fun. I tell you, but it just whips right by. I didn't even realize it. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Dennis Anati, how do you make a pocket cut with multiple bits, using a larger bit for the bulk of an area, smaller bit for tighter and more intricate area? Well, let me see if I can share my screen correctly this time and go over here. Yes, I am sharing my screen. Let's go back to the 2D view and I'll delete that model. I don't need it. We'll come over here. It's all in the pocket tool path. Now, I don't know what version of VCarve or Aspire you're using, but I believe, I want to say in version 10, they switched the form and it now looks like this here. The way you select large versus small bits is all right here. You'll see I have a 1/2 inch end mill already in the pocket. If I want to add another, I'll just click on select, and I can come down here and choose let's go with a 1/8 inch end mill, select, and I have those two tools. You'll see the order that they're running in, 1/2 inch and then 1/8 inch. I can move them around, change them as I wish. I do want the larger bit to be first, smaller bit second. Then after that, you would calculate the tool path. It will create 2 tool paths, and it will list which bit is which. So you'll have one clearance tool path for the 1/2 inch, and then your 1/8 inch will be the other tool path, its own tool path. So there will be a tool change involved, obviously. Now, in the older versions, I don't remember if it was this way in 9.5. I know it was this way in version 9. This area right here was a little bit different. You would select your tool. It was on its own line. Then you had a checkbox that said large area clearance tool. You would check that. Then you would click a select button there and select the larger bit for your clearance. But starting with, I believe, version 10, it went to this form. And now you can put as many bits in here as you want. So if you have several pockets of different sizes you're going to be doing, And some of them will need a 1/2 inch, some of them will need an 1/8 inch, and some of them will need a 1/4 inch. I'll go ahead and I'll select a 1/4 inch end mill too, and add that. And you can select several pockets of several different sizes, and the software knows to calculate for each bit only the areas that it can fit into. So you can do 8, 9, 10 pockets, list all the bits you're going to need, and the software knows which bit to use where to maximize the efficiency. So that's how you would do that with using different bits. Now, just as a heads up, if you've been watching the sneak peeks from Vectric coming in version 11, which I'm excited to see, they are going to do that same thing here. Automatic rest machining. You will be able to select 2 or 3 different bits and select your level of detail, and it will use whichever bit it sees necessary to get in here and do automatic rest machining. So 3D carving with automatic rest machining is coming, and I can't wait. So just a little sneak peek preview of coming attractions. Okay, let's see. Boy. Mike Smith wants to know, can a post processor be renamed for ease of use without screwing it up? You know, Mike, that's an excellent question. Here's what I would do if it were me. I would copy that post processor, rename that copy, and try it. If it does mess up, you still have your original to go back to. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I've never done it. I really don't know. But that's what I would do if it were me. I make a copy, rename that copy, and then try that post processor. If it works great, then that's the post processor I would use. And I would leave the original alone. I'm a firm believer in, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if I'm going to make a change like that, I'll just make a copy and play with the copy. That way the original stays undamaged. But that is an excellent question, and something that would really, that would come in handy. For instance, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into it because that gives me an idea for a video after I get out in the shop. So I'm not going to go into it now. Okay, Michael Mazalik has an answer right here. You can change the name within the post processor. It's not the file name. Okay. All right. I don't know anything about the Next Wave operating system, but just me personally, I still am a firm believer in, if it ain't broke, don't fix it till it is. I would make a copy of it, change the name of that copy, and try it. And this would also be a good question for the folks over on the Next Wave support forum, because those people know your machine best. They have one, they use one. Now, according to Mike, you can change the name of the post processor, and there you go. There's your answer right there. Send Michael an email and he'll walk you through it. See, this is what I mean by, if you guys aren't subscribed to guys like Michael Mazalik and Dave Gatton and Peter Passuello, they're excellent resources. They're excellent sources of information, and they will hook you up. Or as my grandfather used to say, we'll treat you so many ways you have to like one of them. What can I say? Bob Sims. For 3D carving, try to get a file with a 3MF extension, as these are scalable. Okay, good information. Real good information. Thank you for that. there are several different formats for 3D models, and I am trying to remember the format for that's Vectric's native format. It is V3M. The V3M format can be imported into VCarve and Aspire, obviously. But if you go to something like Design and Make, where they offer several different formats, and you purchase a model there, they offer several different formats for download. And people think STL file, they get that in their brain. Personally, when I get something from Design and Make, I download the V3M file or the 3D clip file for Aspire, either one. The V3M files will work with VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro. And Aspire, obviously. 3D clip files will not work with VCarve or Aspire, so do know that. But in fact, I don't even know if they offer the 3D clip file format anymore over there. I think they've just gone to V3M and STL. There may be another, but I don't remember. But the 3MF file extension, I'll have to look into that. I've not run into that one. I'll have to see what that is. I don't know. Is that something that was done in Rhino or 3D Studio or something like that? But it's nice to know that that can be scaled. Okay, well, that appears to be all of the questions. Let's see. Robert Dymock is offering to send me some files for made out of 1/2-inch cast acrylic. Let me kind of play around. I want to get the I want to get a design and get the material. First, I got to get the shop done and get my machine moved in there, which is going to be, speaking of which, I'm going to do a video on moving my CNC machine and everything I go through after I get it moved, because I know I'm going to probably end up re-leveling, retramming, and resurfacing the spoil board. And if I do have to go through all that stuff, well, I'm going to do a video regardless. But if I do have to go through all that stuff, I will be doing a step-by-step on what all I had to do. I won't go into super detail because I've already done videos on leveling, tramming, and surfacing. But I will come up with a checklist and show you that checklist of everything I had to do after I moved the machine, because I've had a few questions about that as well. So, okay, it looks like I am caught up with everything and with everybody. Okay, Rick French, real quick here. Tramming. I still don't completely understand what I'm doing. Okay, what you're doing at first with, for instance, you're taking a piece of glass and you're leveling that piece of glass. And that's the reason for the dial indicator checking all four corners. You want it to be the same height, all four corners. That levels that piece of glass in space. Okay? From there, you're going to switch over to the dial indicator out on an arm, and you're going to check. You're going to put your spindle in the center, and you're going to check side to side, and that's going to tell you whether or not your router or spindle is twisted. Then you're going to flip that, and you're going to check the front and the back, and that's going to be checked to see if your router or spindle is leaning forward or leaning backwards. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go into explanations you didn't need. I know what I'm supposed to be accomplishing. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Well, as I said, you're just trying to get that router or spindle as straight perpendicular as you can get it, straight up and down. But you're trying to get it straight up and down in space. Then you'll surface your spoil board to match that angle, so that the spoil board surface matches that angle. So if it's cocked down like so, you can flatten it out. Basically, if your router is tilted too far forward, you're spacing out the bottom to bring that tilt back. If your router is tilting backwards, you'll be shimming out the top to straighten it out. If your router is tilted, you'll be loosening and adjusting the bolts to straighten it back out like so. That's what you're doing. You know, it's not easy. Well, it's simple, but it's tedious, and a lot of back and forth, and a lot of up and down, and a lot of loosening, tightening, loosening and tightening. It took me 4 hours to get mine trammed in. But, you know, bring a beverage, take a lot of breaks. Everything is going to be all right. Okay, let's go with the last one here. Making an aggravation board game. What bit should I use for the marble holes? Any ball nose. Any ball nose bit will work. And you can do that a couple of ways. Well, you could use a 1/2-inch ball nose or a 1/2-inch, it's not called a ball nose. What's it called? Cove bit. Not a core box bit, but a coving bit. And that's going to be much cheaper than a 1/2-inch ball nose. And you don't need to go very deep. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. That may be too deep. Experiment with some scrap, but a 1/2-inch cove bit should do it. And all that is a round bottom bit. If you want to invest in a 1/2-inch ball nose, be my guest, but they run about $80. So they're a bit pricey. So, okay, let's see. All right, Rick French says, I need to rewatch your vids because I didn't understand it at all when I set my machine up originally. Well, hopefully you understand it a little bit better now, Rick. You're basically just trying to get that spindle or router as perpendicular in space, you know, as perfectly straight up and down as you can. You want it perpendicular to your gantry travel, you know, and from there, then you can machine that spoil board nice and flat, nice and level. A lot of people put a lot of emphasis on leveling the table, which is important. Don't get me wrong, it is. But less important than leveling the table is making sure that spindle is as close to straight up and down as you can. Because you can machine the table. You can machine that spoil board. You can't machine out twist like this, you know. So, unless you want to, you know, carve on a slope, but few people do. And that won't work. Anyway, you'll just get shingling, which is diagonal grooves. So, but yeah, as Mervin says, and thank you, Mervin, be patient. Take plenty of breaks. Like I said, it took me 4 hours to do mine. And that was mainly loosening and tightening. Because when you get down there that picky and you're trying to adjust a couple of thousandths, you know, I was out by, I think, 25 or 30 thousandths when I first put it on. And you can get it in there. And just loosening or tightening a bolt will change it. You can watch that dial indicator wiggle as you loosen or tighten a bolt. Something else to be aware of, and this is just a quick free tip, is when you're running your machine, don't lean on the machine. Don't lean on the table. Don't set stuff down on the table. Don't touch it. Let it run. If you don't think that makes a difference, put a dial indicator on your spindle, put it down and touch the spoil board, and lean on that table. I'll bet you that dial indicator moves. Mine does. And I built a stout table. That's just one of those things. Don't touch it. Let it do its job. Go away. Okay, good grief. We've been on here 50 minutes. Michael Mazalik will be previewing a video in about an hour and 10 minutes from now over on his channel, and I'm kind of excited to see this one. He's doing an alternative method, super secret classified, an alternative method or an alternative approach to 3D modeling. Now, he doesn't say whether or not this is Aspire only or V-Carve and Aspire. But if I know Michael, it's going to be an excellent video. So I'm kind of eager to see how this is going to turn out. He starts at, that video will premiere at 2 o'clock Pacific. That's 5 o'clock Eastern over on Michael's channel. There is already a link in the description box below to that video. So it'll be a premiere, and I hope to see you guys over there. I will be there. And let's see, another one is I'd like to thank everybody who has donated to the GoFundMe we have set up for Dave Gatton. There's a link to it down in the description box of this video. If you'd like to go over there and donate, first of all, a personal thank you to everybody who has. And I know Dave appreciates it, and I sure appreciate it. I would also like to give a special thank you to everybody who has clicked on those donation buttons down below to donate to my channel to help support me. You're helping to fund the shop shed build. And I appreciate that more than you guys will ever know. All of the super chats, every time you watch a video, every time you share one of my videos, you help me to finance this shop shed build, and I greatly appreciate it. Believe me. Thank you very, very much. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up here, almost an hour long, holy cow, by saying thank you, everybody. I hope I got to your questions. If I didn't answer it to your satisfaction, please leave a comment down here. I will get those 3 Mach3 videos put in the description, and I will also link my tramming video for you, Rick, down in the comments, or down in the description. And I wanted to say thank you to Jonathan W. Go check out his channel. The man is awesome. Have a good Sunday. Y'all do something cool. Go get a sandwich and then come back, and we'll see you over at Mike's video. Y'all have a good one now. Take care. See you next week, and I don't know what next week's video is going to be. Have a good one.